Hey everybody, Brian the Darkness coming at you, and guess what? I got a top 10. So a top 10 is basically all the decks basically crunched down to the bare minimum. For those that did not make the list, I will mention it later. For the ones that did make the list, let's start off with number 10. So number 10, we're going to be going with Red Eyes. I know the Firekeeper is going to hate me for doing this, but you know what? It's still in the top 10 anyway. So I actually really like Red Eyes. Red Eyes is actually one of my favorite monsters. And in particular, the way the deck functions in its purest form is very, very good. I'm still trying to learn out for all the aspects of the deck, but it's actually very, very valuable, especially now that we have Dragoon, which hopefully does not get banned. But if it does, hey, it's okay. In any case, that is definitely into my top 10. Number 9, Jinzo. This has got to be my second favorite monster of the whole entire game. Why? It's freaking Jinzo, for crying out loud. I mean, who wouldn't want something that can just either be easily summoned out right away or just tributed out and basically nullifies the effects on all the traps onto the field? With that being said, they just got their new support out not too long ago, and the deck actually runs pretty good, and it's actually topped itself fairly quickly, and I might add. So I might actually get a new deck profile for that as well. So just stay tuned in for that. Number 8 would be Ancient Warriors. I know it's not that high, but then again, it is a budget deck. But believe it or not, it's actually a very good budget deck. With that being said, if you guys want to go and get it, it doesn't even cost that much. Literally, if anything, it should actually be a structure deck. But in any case, I actually really like the flow of the deck and how well it runs itself in. You can actually run it in many different kind of versions, especially with tri-bragade that's out there right now that actually supports in for the Beast Warrior attribute, or archetype, sorry. So you can definitely look into that. Number 7, Monarchs. One of the most controversial decks of my time of playing, basically. Back in the day, I basically started when this whole game out began, which I'll go back into it, mentioning later on down the list. But pretty much Monarchs was basically one of the biggest decks that I came back with, besides my Blackwings. And pretty much when I first got into the Monarchs, it was kind of like iffy towards me because my one buddy, he ended up playing Frognarks. Never really took into the interest towards that, but I knew that at the time it was actually pretty broken until they banned Substitute. But pretty much, Monarchs actually turned into a Chaos form, which was really, really good. And at the same time, they got into a structure deck. And we just recently, and I cannot stress it enough, Panthesium came back at 3. This is hopefully not, if not, the last time I'm going to mention this, but I'm just going to continue mentioning it. In any case, I'm actually going to be building Frognarks again. Blast from the past. So, you may want to go ahead and stay tuned in for that and definitely get that going. But definitely, I love the tribute summons them towards the deck and how they're able to go ahead and function. People say they brick. You brick. Number 6, Ancient Gears. I know I haven't put up an Ancient Gear deck profile because the Cyborg has actually taken the initiative to go ahead and do that himself. But you know what? I can go ahead and push ahead of the line and go ahead and do one myself. So that's what I'm going to actually do. But I love Ancient Gears. First time I actually played it when the structure deck came out. Funny fact. So it happened out on 2 occasions. On one occasion that I had, I actually boosted up the Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem past its limit with limiter removal. So it boosted up all the way up to 16,000 in one shot. The other time that I did that too was when I was playing out against the King of Armageddon deck, I believe it is called, and the Ritual deck. And pretty much I did the same thing. I performed an FTK out when I went with Power Bond, and I ended up going with limiter removal. The next deck that I have is honestly one of my biggest favorites, and that's Zombies. That's for number 5, Zombies. When I first started in Yu-Gi-Oh, we all had our structure decks. We all did. You either had Kaba or you had Yugi. Obviously, I went with Yugi, but obviously, when you have the Yugi deck, there's only really so much that you could really do with it. But it was still fun to have nonetheless. When I really got back into the game, it was in 2009. when I really started getting back into the game. And my first deck coming back was actually zombies. And not the standard zombies that you'd see now, of course, with all of your other stuff coming in with the combos and the zombie world and everything like that. No, this thing was broken down into the most simplest form, where you had Poison Mummy and Pyramid Turtle and Ryogoki. And I actually, believe it or not, and I'll show it, I'll bring it out in a deck profile, I ran Dark Death Spirit. Why? I know it's not a zombie, but it was still stupid to have just nonetheless. So, but I will definitely show that to you guys. But that's definitely into my top 5. Top 4, number 4. So, number 4, it has to be Uriah. Why? Because Uriah is actually one of the best of the Sacred Beasts. Sure, it might be a Slifer ripoff, but who cares, you know? Nonetheless, the fact of the matter is that the fact that you can get pumped up so quickly in just a short amount of time definitely deserves to be in the top. At the same time, the deck actually flows itself very nicely now that the structure deck came out with its new support, especially with Uriah's own special card that we have now with Hyperblaze. So that's actually very promising now. Top 3. So now with the 3, number 3 would have to be 6 Amps. Why? It is one of the most annoying decks imaginable. And the collector can actually attest for that.
I actually can.
He actually ran that deck, and he even faced off against it. And let me tell you, if Rota was not at 3, as it was back then, I'm telling you, the main functions of the deck was literally to go out for Compulse, Trap Dust Shoot. At the time when it was at its highest peak, when Gateway, unfortunately, it ended up getting limited down, but it was there, close to it. It was at 2, I believe, at the time. I'm not too entirely sure, but nonetheless, you'd go in for your Brionac, you'd go in for your Goya Garden, you would go in for your Trishula, then you would also double up on towards your Xian. I mean, you already have negates, you have monster stealing, you also have bouncing with Brionac before it got its Rota, which was not once per turn at the time. And then you also have Trishula just for the lulz. Why? Because you could basically take out your opponent's deck and chip it out slowly. The deck is super, super good. Super aggressive considering the fact that it can special summon out, and now they banish, and they bring back from the banish to go ahead and special summon out more. Will they get support? I hope. Number 2, Exodia. This has got to be one of the most hated decks of all time of the game. Why? You literally play solitaire with yourself while your opponent watches in agony, shame, and just complete bewilderment at the fact that they're actually facing off against an Exodia. The moment that you actually start out for your first turn, the moment that you start drawing at least 3 or 4 cards, your opponent already knows what's going on, so they'll concede right off the bat. Or they'll just go ahead and watch and see you perform your little act. There's many versions of Exodia, as you guys can see on the deck profiles that I've actually put up, and there's definitely more to come. But with Exodia, the fastest way out to draw it, I have yet to pull out all 5 pieces by sheer coincidence in the first draw. I have not accomplished that yet, but if it does end up happening, we will have that thing recorded. I guarantee you. And number 1, Blackwings. What more could I say? It's what I live for. It is my bread and butter in the game. It is actually, besides zombies, Blackwings actually ranked itself as being my signature deck since 2010. All those years ago, before Out for the Banishment on Gofu and Steam of the Cloak and all of that stuff. The moment that Gale went to 3, and I got to experience that because I had the deck at the time. Gale was at 1, and then it shot to 3. Then, just a few years back, it ended up getting support for Black Whirlwind. And now we have the full armored master too. Do we need more support? Yes, we do. If anything, we could have a Link, or We could have more traps or more spells. We have one of the most aggressive decks in the game that is completely unnoticed by many. I know a lot of people say that the deck is awful. Well, you know what? I completely beg to differ. I have won so many matches out with my Blackwing deck that I can't even count. Is it good against this format? Sure, why not? Is it fast enough for this format? Probably so, if you're able to get in at least out for either whether you're going first or second, depending on the situation and the deck that you're running against. But nonetheless, it definitely comes into my top 1, and I could have asked for a better deck at the time. And even up to this point, I still have it. So that's my top 10. Hope you guys like that. Please like and subscribe. And if you guys want to see other top 10s or anything else for that matter, go ahead and check it all out. And we'll see you guys next time.